Hello everyone, welcome to episode 1 of my Roblox scripting series, where I'll be teaching you how to program in Roblox using Lua. Whether you're brand new to scripting, or you've dabbled a bit, this series is designed to help you go from beginner to confident game developer, one episode at a time. So firstly, we're going to be going over variables. So variables are, to put it simply, a way of storing information inside of your script. For example, numbers, text, true or false, also known as a boolean, and we're going to be covering all of that in today's video. So firstly, to make a script, you would either go to server script service. This is where you will hold your server scripts, or you could go to start GUI, start character scripts, start player scripts, and then where your local scripts will go. I will go into more detail about these in future videos, but firstly for now, we're just going to go with a server script. So this is a server script. This is what you'll see when you open one up. It'll say print hello world, which will just print to the console hello world. Now, to variables. Making a variable is fairly simple. You just type local, give it a name, so for example, number, and you give it a value. So I'm going to set that equal to 1. Now, you don't always need to give them a value immediately. You can just call them local number and give it a value later on in your script. But for now, just for the sake of things, we are going to give it a value. Number 1. Now, you can also have strings. So for example, local name, let's just say Bob. Doesn't really matter. And that is now a string. So this is a string. So here we have a integer. This is an integer. This is an integer value. This here is a string. Then we can have a, for example, true or false. And we can just set this by default to false. And this is called a boolean. So this is what you would use if you want to store information. So for example, if you're going to use it multiple times, for example, name, you want to have, for example, print name here, and then you have, I don't know, something happening here, whatever, it doesn't really matter. You have something happening down here, for example, a function, and then it does this, but then you also want to print name or use name multiple times. It will stop you from having to write out name every single time. You can also use it, for example, if you wish to have a variable that will change value all the time and will have a strict value. It is good to be able to use a variable as you can change it throughout the script. So for example, I can print number, then I can do number and add 1 to it, and then print number again. And what we'll see is when we press play is that it prints 1 and then prints 2. So this is an example of it changing throughout the script. What I think we should do next is applying variables to real scenarios. So let's try this. Let's add a part into the workspace. Here's our part. And what I would like to do is change its color. So let's go to our script. Let's first reference the part using a variable. So do local part equals. And I think the best way to do this just for now, to keep things simple, is put this script inside of the part. So this is just so it's the easiest reference, and that will mean we can just do script.parent. So that is how you can find parent if you want to find what something is inside of. So what this script is inside of, for example, is the script. This is how you reference the script, is literally just type script, very simple, and .parent to get its parent. The script is parented to the part has a child of the script. So that is now the part referenced. Now if we wish to choose a color, we can do local color equals color3 dot from RGB, for example. So we could do color3.new, or in this case I'm going to do from RGB, which means we can just get 3 values, red, green, blue. And if we want to make it, for example, red, we do 255 0 0. As you can see, it is red. Now if we wish to change the part's brick color, what we can do is part dot brick color equals brick color dot new, and set it to the color that we have chosen. Now when we press play, as you can see, our part is now red. If we wish to then change it later on, we might want to task.wait, wait for 2 seconds, and then do this again. So we can just put this underneath and change it to another color. Let's have color2 equals color3 dot from RGB, and let's do this and make it green instead, and then make the color 2. So as you can see, if you have a variable, for example, just quickly, if you do have a variable, you can write the name inside of something, for example, a brick color or a print. So if we wanted to print, we could print the color and it will just print out the value that we've set for it. That's not good. So we just print out color, which we have referenced here, and it'll just print out the value. So if we just wait 2 seconds and then change it to green, press play, it goes red, and after a second, it goes green. So that's how we can change them dynamically using a script. So as you can see here, we are getting a little bit tricky. This isn't incredibly easy stuff, so don't worry if you're not catching on immediately. It is a little bit tricky and it can be at the start and as expected. Next we can go a little bit easier and just simply print variables. So let's do this and let's get a couple more variables. So local name, we'll just do Bob, that works. We can do, let's see, let's just get age. We'll get an age, make him 22. And let's see, local likes football. And let's just set that to false. So he doesn't like football. Now we can do this and we can print. So we can look. So we can print his name. So print name. And then if you want to connect something to this, you do 2 dots, just like this. And you can do whatever you put is age, and then age, and then does he like football, and then put likes football. So now if we run this, okay, this is, oh yes, I've made a slight issue, hold on. What we need to do here is, because these aren't strings, this is obviously an integer, this is a boolean, what we should do is to string and then enter it, so likes football. And as you can see, it's printed here. However, we need to add spaces. And there we go. Bob, okay, hold on a minute. Add enough spaces, and as you can see, it'll print Bob is age 22. Does he like football? False. And as we can see, we have printed out everything. So if you're printing a value, for example, with this boolean, we were unable to print it and it returned an error when we tried to print this. That is because you need to string, which basically means turn whatever it is. So it's the value of it is false. It's just going to make the word false a string rather than a value. So false is just a value. It's a value you can have true or false. But this is going to turn it into a string value, and allow it to be printed. So you can't just print false because to the computer it isn't saying false, it is printing a negative value. So now we are going to do a very, very simple score system. So you can just reference score, local score. We don't need to give it a value yet because we're going to add it later on. What I would like to do is every time the player touches this part, they're going to add 1 to their score. So we just have local score here. Then we can reference the part, which is script parent. Now what we can do is do part and do the dot touched and connect a function. And this may look a bit tricky as there is quite a lot going on here. However, it's not too tricky. All we're doing is we're getting part. So we're referencing our part variable. We're doing dot touched. And then to connect something, you can connect. And then if we already had a function, for example, like this, an onTouched function, we could just simply connect onTouched here. Alright, onTouched there, and that would then do whatever is needed. So say when it gets touched, we want to print hello. We could do that obviously, maybe with that string, there we go. However, that's not what we're going to do, we're just going to make a function. So connect function. I'll show that one more time. Part.touched, connect function, put some brackets, and enter that. So there you go. Now we're going to do, we're going to get the touches. This is what touched it. So if you want to figure out what did this, we can just write what touched it there. So if we want to now, we can print touched, and we can see what touches it. So if we run this, we can see it's touching the base plate, so it's printed base plate. If we touch it, you can see every time we're touching it, it's printing what part of our body's touching. And if we look here, what we can do is we can see that that is all part of our body. So what we're going to do is we're going to check if it is a player that's touching it. So we're going to do local humanoid equals touched dot parent. I'm going to find first child humanoid. And what we can do is if humanoid, then print humanoid dot parent dot name. So if we look here, we can see that this, all of this right here, is going to be counting as this touched. So if any of these touch it, this is what we're going to assign touched to. So these are all going to be assigned as a touched right here. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to check if touch.parent, so touched, so for example, say we touch it with our right foot, we're going to check touched, so that will be then touched. Dot parent, the parent of touched is me, and see if it has a child called humanoid, which I do, which means it is a player. And if it does, then it'll print the humanoid dot parent, which is this, dot name, which will be my name. So every time I touch this, it should print my name. There we go. So now it's going to be printing my name. So now if we would like to use this to add points, we could do, so what we do is if we just give score values, make it 0 by default, these are the default value, and then we just score plus equals 1, and then print. Actually what we could do is if we use another variable, we can use another variable right here, local player name equals humanoid.parent.name. So it's another way of us using a variable instead of having to write this out again. So instead here we can just put print the player's name, and we can do this, and let's just say gained 1 point, give them a score, and then print new score, and then the score value. So now if we press play here, we can see every time we do it, it says Alfie gained 1 point, new score is there. So that will conclude our first episode on variables. If you would like to know anything else, have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and I will gladly answer them. But with that, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.